Now we are finally going to get into editing the footage for our gear organization tutorial, and the first step is to sync our footage. No, that is a lie. The first step is to create a new project. So just like last time, we're going to launch Premiere, we're going to create a new project, we're going to give it a name, we're going to save it in a project folder, and then we're going to save everything else here into that same project folder so that everything stays organized. Boom, cool. Project is made. Now let's get into syncing. So before I get into cutting this footage, I want to make sure that I synchronize the video footage with the separate audio files that I got from that audio recorder that was hooked up to that mic above my head. So I'm going to show you 4 ways to sync footage, and they all have different pros and cons, and so let's get into the first one. All right, sync method number 1 is to manually sync your footage. And this is what I showed you before. This is something that everybody should know, because a lot of times when you rely on a computer to sync your footage, it can make some mistakes. And so you might need to go in and troubleshoot, and you want to know how to do that. So to manually sync footage, we just stack it up in the timeline, and then we want to make sure that we expand these tracks. So we do that by pressing the Shift and the plus key, and that's going to let us see those audio waveforms, because remember, that's what we're using to sync, is we're looking at the waveforms. And so I'm just going to look for a spike in the waveform where I clapped, or if you didn't clap, you can kind of just look for a similar pattern, and we're just going to match those up. And now let's play this back to check our work. Let's talk about video gear, because it can get out of control real quick. And that sounds good. My lips are moving at the right time, but the audio is doubled up because we need to delete that bad audio from our camera. So we'll select it, and you'll notice when we do that, it's also got the video selected, because remember, the video and audio come out of your camera linked. So we're gonna right click and select unlink, and that's gonna let us just select the audio and delete it. And now if we play this back, let's talk about video gear, because it can get out of control real quick. Then things sound super profesh. So that is how you manually sync audio in Premiere. Now, if we want to be lazier than that, then we can use Premiere's built-in synchronization feature on the timeline. So here's how that works. First, you want to stack each of your recordings on a separate track on the timeline. So we've got a camera here that's focused on both of us. We've got a camera that's focused just on me, one that's focused just on Miles that did not have the audio levels on the camera set right. So hopefully that's not going to be a problem when we sync. And then we've also got a lav mic for each of us. So each recording is on a separate track. That's very important. I do not want Miles' lav audio on the same track as my lav audio. So it should look like this. And now I do not want to line all these waveforms up manually myself, and so to sync these, I am just going to select all these clips. I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to select synchronize. Now we're just going to give Premiere a minute to think, and voila, all our clips are synced just like that. So this synchronization feature is going to work well if you stop and start all the recordings on your different devices at about the same time. So if you're stopping and starting at different times, don't use this. You want to have nice, long, clean takes for this method. So like right here, it's very obvious that these clips go together and that these clips go together, because unfortunately with this method, I need to sync each batch of recordings separately. If I try to select them all, then you'll see synchronize is grayed out. But if you only have a few batches of footage, maybe you're just talking to the camera, then this synchronize function is really efficient. All right, sync method number 3 is the most efficient way to synchronize if you are just using one camera and one external audio recorder, and it's not on the timeline, it is in the project panel. So here I've got some footage from an A-roll shoot. I've got my camera footage and then my audio footage. And so to sync these, I am going to select them. I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to select create multi-camera source sequence. That is a long name, and I know you're like, Mary, you just said that this is the method that you use if you're just using one camera, and this says multi-camera, and this is all very confusing. I know you can use this method to sync if you've got multiple cameras, but it is a hot mess and I would not recommend it. And so just think of multi-camera here as multi-device, right? You've got a camera and an audio recorder. So we're going to select this, and then this settings window is going to come up. So in the first section where it says synchronize point, we're going to pick audio, because we want Premiere to sync this footage based on the audio, based on points in the audio waveform. For the track channel, you want to select mix down. So audio mixing is when you mix different audio sources, and mixing down is when you mix your audio down to just the good mic that you want. For sequence preset, you can leave that on automatic. You want to leave this check where it says move source clips to a process bin, and I'm going to show you why that's important in a second. For sequence settings, choose camera 1. For audio channels preset, leave that on automatic. And for camera names, you can leave that on the default, which is enumerate cameras, or pick whatever you want. Okay, that was a lot of settings. Now we are going to click OK. Premiere is going to do its thing and it's done. Okay, so what just happened? Well, Premiere has put all the clips that it's processed in this bin here. And by process, we mean the clips that it has synced. And so thankfully, all of our footage here ended up in this process bin, which means Premiere could sync it. If you've got footage that has been left out in the cold and did not make it to this process bin, then your audio levels might have been off. Anyway, Premiere has also created these new items in our project panel that have this fancy new icon, and this is really exciting. So what are we going to do with these things? Well, we're just going to select them, and then we're going to drag them to an empty timeline panel so that they get added to a new sequence. But now if we look at this new sequence that we have just created, then you will see she looks really good and she sounds really good. So listen to this. This is the most efficient audio lesson ever. So we're only hearing the good audio, it's synced up with my mouth, and we didn't have to go through on the timeline and sync all of those batches of recordings separately. It was just really efficient in the project panel. Okay, so let's stop because it's really important to know now that with each of these 3 sync methods that I've talked about so far, I've been using A-roll footage. So footage where I'm just talking to the camera. So it's been pretty simple because I've got these long, clean takes. But if your footage does not look like this, maybe you've got recordings that you're stopping and starting at different times and they're overlapping like this, or you have a bunch of small clips because you're shooting B-roll or documentary footage or a wedding, then I would not recommend syncing in Premiere. I think that it just turns into a hot mess because Premiere wants to put each recording on a separate track, and now I have 100 tracks here and I am just getting stressed out looking at this and talking about this. And so that brings me to the 4th and final way to sync your footage, which is by using a separate software that we talked about earlier called PluralEyes. This is the method that I always use to sync footage, but before I show you how I do it, I have an introductory disclaimer, and that is that PluralEyes ain't free. At the time of this recording, it cost $299. Do I think that price is worth every single penny? Absolutely. If you are going to be shooting a lot of short clips with multiple devices, so like if you're doing B-roll or documentary footage or wedding footage or behind the scenes content, like my sanity is intact for the most part, in part because of this software. But I know that $300 is a lot of money. PluralEyes does have a free trial. They do have some educational discounts that you might look into, and I've got information linked down below if you're interested. But for now, I'm gonna show you how it works in case that helps you decide. So first you drag any media that you want to sync into the PluralEyes application, and it will automatically break up your footage from different devices. So I don't have to fool with getting every recording on a separate track like I do in Premiere. It just does everything for me. Then you're gonna click the most magical button of all, the synchronize button, and then you're just gonna lean back in your chair and you're gonna have a moment of zen thinking about all the time that you are saving by using this app. After PluralEyes is done doing its thing, then everything that synced successfully is going to show up in blue, and everything that didn't is going to show up in red. Usually I don't worry if I see a few red clips here and there. Maybe I was just filming something with a single camera real quick. But if you see red all over your screen after syncing in PluralEyes, then obviously you've got some issues. There are ways to check your sync and to refine it within PluralEyes, but honestly, PluralEyes does such a good job syncing that I don't ever mess with these. And so at this point, I am ready to move all this work we've done here into our Premiere project. So to do that, I'm gonna go up here and click Export Timeline. And then for the export format, obviously we're going to click Premiere Pro, and I usually create a folder called Sync inside my same project folder. And now I'm gonna quit PluralEyes, I'm gonna open back up Premiere, I'm going to create a bin called Sync, and now I'm just going to simply drag what we saved from PluralEyes into this bin, and that is going to automatically import. You'll see all of the footage from our different devices, and we've also got this synced sequence. And if we open that up, you will see that all of our audio waveforms are perfectly aligned, even though we got a million different messy clips on this timeline, so this is looking good. The only thing is that this sequence has all the audio I recorded, so it's got the good, the bad, the ugly, but for now I'm just gonna leave it in this sequence because in case there is some issue with the sync job that PluralEyes did and I need to go back in here and make some manual adjustments, then I can do that. I have all my waveforms, I haven't deleted anything, so I'm just gonna leave this sequence as is, and I'm gonna duplicate it, then I'm gonna name that, organize it, open it up, and now I can delete the audio that I don't want, and I can just get into cutting this footage. And so again, I love this application. As you can tell, I don't have to stress as much when I'm in the field and worry about, am I turning on and off my devices at the same time? I don't have to worry about preparing my footage and lining it all up in the timeline. I can just dump everything into PluralEyes and it's gonna do the work for me. And so if you're interested in learning more about this application, then I've got links down below that you might explore.